Hello dear viewers, and welcome to another video from me here in the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. Today I will be playing the game The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing. Van Helsing, as I shall hereby refer it to, is an action role-playing game set in the steampunk Victorian age of the fictional Borgova. It was developed by Neocore Games, the same team behind Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr. Van Helsing was originally developed and released as 3 separate games, with the first releasing in May of 2013, the sequel in May of 2014, and the final game released in May of 2015. In November 2015, Neocore released the Final Cut, which combined all 3 games into one large, complete one. The Final Cut is the title that this here noble dwarf will be discussing today. As you have no doubt assumed, the setting for this game follows the fictional character Van Helsing from Bram Stoker's Dracula story. But rather than the Elder, this is the Great Doctor's son, who has taken up the mantle of Hunter of Evilry, dishing out punishment to all malignant and foul creatures. The backdrop is a 19th century era East European fictional country of Borgova, featuring all sorts of monsters and mad inventions. A crazed Professor Fulmigati has taken over the land with his strange contraptions, intent on being up to no good. It is up to you, brave Van Helsing, to take the fight to the Mad Doctor and save Borgova. Of course, had they just enlisted long-bearded dwarven slayers, then the whole thing would have been cleared up before tea time. Instead, let's see what this Van Helsing is made of. There isn't a lot of backstory of our young Van Helsing and the hero of our adventure, but we know he isn't as experienced as the Elder, but will hopefully still be up to the task. You are not alone in your incredible adventures though. You'll be accompanied by the ghost of Lady Katerina, a spectre that is bound to your family name who will prove very useful in your war against Evilry. The graphics of Van Helsing are fine enough for an ARPG. Some of the textures are not so spiffing, and there's a little bit of a washed out feeling at times, with some of the more industrial areas feeling a little brown, but overall they do a decent job describing this weird scientific 19th century setting. There are different biomes featured throughout the game, from wild wilderness to snowy peaks, strange floating islands, and a lot of industrialised cityscape. Although the city stuff can get a little tiresome, the scenery gets changed up enough to keep you interested. The monster design is commendable, with a good amount of variety aesthetic-wise. There are generally 2 groups of enemies. There are the classic monsters like giants, satyrs, spectres, zombies, bats, and all that, while the other group contains creatures that have been engineered through science, coming in different shapes and sizes, powered by arcane means with tentacles, blades, and great big weapons. This allows for quite the creativity when designing creatures for our hero to slay. There are mobs reused of course, and any game would do so, but I think there is plenty of different enemy types to keep interest. And they look good too, mean and strange indeed. The spells and effects used by your character are colourful and give a useful feedback when striking your foes. I chose the Elementalist, who has access to a lot of spells from lightning bolts to ice storms and great storms of destruction, all of which are well presented here. There was the odd thing like the lightning bolt that you could charge for more damage. I wish the resulting powerful bolts would have been a bit bigger. With regards to overall performance, the game ran rather well for me, with no hard crashes or anything, though I did have the odd flicker of textures on certain levels. Throughout your journey across the land, a common occurrence is the dialogue between Van Helsing and Katerina. There are a lot of tongue-in-cheek nods and references, and the 2 of them have a good rapport as played out by their 2 voice actors. It is quite jovial to listen to the 2 of them talking about what to do or what avenue they should take to complete a quest. The audio feedback from using spells and effects is good, and with the only thing to note is that the spells could do with a little more dramatic sound to some of them. When starting the game, you'll be prompted to log into a Neocore account to play online. Sadly, there appears a lot of the online functionality no longer exists as they shut the servers down in 2022. Apparently you can still play some multiplayer. You can play the game offline totally fine, which is what I likely would have done anyway. When starting the game anew, you must choose a class from a list of 6. There is the Protector, who uses sword and board and heavy armour, the Umbralist, who is a sneaky so-and-so with daggers, the bounty hunter, who makes use of a variety of firearms, the phlogistoneer, who employs various explosives and fiery weapons, the constructor, who focuses on summoning spiders, turrets and such, and finally the elementalist, who uses the power of the elements through fire, lightning and ice to destroy their foes. So as you can see, there's quite a range in character archetypes for you to choose from to complement your playstyle. Once you've selected a class, you will begin the game. You start out as Van Helsing in the wilderness battling some monsters when you are requested to head to the city and help put a stop to the mad scientist Fulmagati. The mad doctor has taken over and is up to all kinds of no good. You will battle your way there and battle some more once you arrive as the story unfolds before you. Combat in Van Helsing is fun and the sort of good stuff you might expect from an isometric action role-playing game. You fire your weapons and spells at the baddies on the screen with lots of gusto. The action time of you clicking a spell and our hero using it is very swift, with decent audio and visual feedback. You can map the left and right mouse buttons to use skills, along with using the left mouse button to click to move. I would say I'm of the school in RPGs where I prefer that the left click was only used for movement rather than doing double time within an assigned spell. It can lead to wonky situations where you're trying to move somewhere quickly in combat, but your character keeps stopping and using a spell rather than seeking safe ground. You can also map abilities to the numbers 1 to 6, allowing for a total of 8 different abilities as you wish. As you level in Van Helsing, you will gain skill points that can be spent on a circular skill tree. I guess it's not a tree, it's rather more like a dish, so a skill dish. There are 3 rings in the dish, which the most powerful skills on the outer rings. Somewhat like Diablo 2 and other RPGs, you must first put in a certain amount of skill points into a specific skill before you gain access to the next skill in the ring. The most outer and powerful skills, like Diablo 2, gain bonus strength for every point in previous skills. This is good as you don't feel like you're wasting skill points on a skill you are not going to use. I guess though, if you have no intention at all of using those earlier skills, then it might still be a bit of a bummer. Interestingly, and not something I've seen in other games I've played, besides your hero making use of mana and health points, they also have a third resource called Rage. As you defeat bad guys, you will fill up your Rage bar. Every skill in the game on the talent tree has special power-up talents that you can take that will use up Rage to provide some sort of bonus the next time the skill is used. There's a total of 3 charges you can use, ranging from bonus damage, skill duration and other such things. It works rather well and flows quite nicely during the course of a battle, building Rage and spending it on boosting your skills. Good fun. The gearing system feels good. You have the usual slots that you could come to expect with various tiers of items. You can enchant items with random bonuses, you can attempt to craft an item from 2 other pieces, and you can spend 2 top tier items to receive another random item. Items also have essence slots, which you can fill with different types of essences that bring different bonuses. These can also be leveled up and removed from items you don't wish to use anymore. And just when you're finished gearing up and selecting skills for Van Helsing himself, there is Katarina to look at as well. She gains levels as you do, has access to her own set of ghostly abilities, as well as having her own set of gear. Katrina can take on several roles during combat, being completely passive, providing you with simple bonuses, being a ranged character dealing death from ranged, or being up front in melee as a beefy tank. I chose her to be in melee with lots of health and resistances so she could tank most of the baddies while I stood back and nuked them from range. As you progress through the story, you will also unlock new features, from the aforementioned enchanting and essence NPCs to entirely new sort of minigame things as well. You will eventually be able to send off troops on missions around Bulgova, levelling up your characters and receiving extra rewards. There is also the Chimera, your pet that you can send out into the world to hunt down prey and also bring back some extra goodies. There's quite a lot here in Van Helsing that should keep you busy. As this is an amalgamation of 3 games, there is a lot of content in the final cut. There are numerous chapters covering the trilogy's 3 campaigns, all seamlessly flowing into the next quite happily. There are lots of characters that you will come across and interact with, and there are a lot of tongue-in-cheek pop culture references sprinkled throughout your journey. There are lots of baddies to take down as you progress through the different levels and story, bookended by some epic boss battles as you might hope. I think The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing is an unsung hero in the isometric action role-playing game genre. It features decent combat, various interesting systems for gearing and character progression, while all woven together with an interesting setting. The game does a lot of things right and deserves to be played by more of the ARPG enjoyers out there. Obviously Neocore went on to do Inquisitor Martyr, which is a very good game in this dwarf's opinion, so I think it's worth checking out their earlier work here as well. I do like this game a lot. It has some faults like any game might, but is a really solid title that I think enjoyers of the genre should definitely check out if they haven't already done so. It might be a little slower paced than perhaps Path of Exile, but I kind of like it that way anyway. The game is worth it at full price and is a total bargain if you can get it on sale, which it often is. You can purchase it on both Steam or GOG. And there we go, dear viewers, another load of waffle from this here dwarf down in the ancient hold. I hope you've enjoyed the video and are doing well. Goodbye, and I shall see you next time.